Hey there, and welcome back. If you've been paying attention to what's happening in our economy, our supply chains, and the world around us, you might have noticed something interesting. Smart, everyday Americans are quietly preparing for uncertainty without falling into panic mode. And before we dive into what they're stockpiling and why it matters for you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on content that could genuinely help protect you and your family in the months ahead. So let's talk about what's really going on. We're not here to fearmonger or sell you survival bunkers. This is about practical preparedness based on real trends we're seeing right now in early 2026. The people making these moves aren't extremists or doomsday preppers. They're nurses, teachers, accountants, and business owners who've learned from recent history that being self-reliant for a few weeks or months isn't paranoia. It's just smart planning. First up on our list is prescription medications and over-the-counter essentials. This might seem obvious, but here's what most people miss. Smart Americans aren't just grabbing extra bottles of ibuprofen. They're having serious conversations with their doctors about getting 90-day supplies instead of 30-day refills. They're building relationships with their pharmacists and understanding what's actually possible within insurance guidelines. The pharmaceutical supply chain has shown us repeatedly that it can be disrupted. We saw it during the pandemic, and we're seeing periodic shortages of common medications right now. If you take daily medications for blood pressure, thyroid issues, diabetes, or mental health, having even an extra month supply could be the difference between stability and a genuine health crisis. And for over-the-counter items, think about what you reach for when someone in your house gets sick. Pain relievers, antihistamines, stomach remedies, first aid supplies. These are things you don't want to realize you need at 10 p.m. when you're already feeling terrible. The smart move is keeping a well-organized medicine cabinet with expiration dates clearly marked and rotating stock so nothing goes to waste. Next, let's talk about water filtration systems. Notice I didn't say bottled water. Sure, having some bottled water makes sense for immediate emergencies, but it's bulky, expensive over time, and not a long-term solution. What prepared Americans are investing in right now are quality water filtration systems. We're talking about everything from countertop gravity filters to under-sink reverse osmosis systems to portable camping-style filters that can purify questionable water sources. Why the focus on water? Because clean drinking water is the one thing you absolutely cannot live without for more than a few days, and municipal water systems are more vulnerable than most people think. Aging infrastructure, potential contamination events, natural disasters, even cyber attacks on water treatment facilities are all real scenarios we've seen happen in various communities. A good water filter isn't just for emergencies either. It improves the taste and quality of your everyday drinking water and reduces your dependence on plastic bottles. And look for filters that remove bacteria, protozoa, chemicals, and heavy metals. And here's a pro tip. Stock up on replacement filters too, because if there's a widespread water issue, those filters will disappear from shelves immediately. Number 3 is shelf-stable protein sources. Protein is where most people's emergency food planning falls apart. It's easy to stock up on rice, pasta, and canned vegetables, but quality protein with a long shelf life requires more thought. Smart preppers are focusing on canned meats like chicken, tuna, and salmon, but they're also going beyond the basics. They're buying dried beans and lentils in bulk, which are incredibly cheap and last for years when stored properly. They're investing in quality protein powders with long expiration dates. They're getting canned or dried milk products. Some are even exploring freeze-dried meats, which are pricier up front, but have shelf lives of 25 years or more and retain much better nutritional value than traditional canned options. The key insight here is that in any extended disruption scenario, maintaining your protein intake is critical for energy, immune function, and mental clarity. A pantry full of carbs might fill your stomach, but it won't keep you healthy and strong. Calculate how much protein your household needs daily and work backward to build at least a 3-month supply of varied sources so you don't experience food fatigue. Item number 4 might surprise you. It's seeds for growing food. And we're not talking about planting a tiny tomato plant on your windowsill. Americans who are serious about resilience are buying heirloom, non-GMO seeds in variety packs designed specifically for food security. Why heirloom? Because unlike hybrid seeds, heirloom seeds are open-pollinated, which means you can save seeds from the plants you grow and plant them again next season. This creates a renewable food source rather than a one-time thing. Even if you've never gardened before, having seeds gives you options. A small backyard garden, or even container gardening on a balcony, can provide fresh vegetables that supplement your stored food and provide crucial vitamins that degrade in stored foods over time. The people stockpiling seeds aren't necessarily planning for a complete collapse scenario. They're recognizing that fresh produce prices have skyrocketed, and home gardening is both a money saver and a hedge against food inflation. Plus, there's something psychologically empowering about knowing you can produce at least some of your own food. Start with easy, high-yield crops like tomatoes, lettuce, beans, and squash, and store your seeds in a cool, dry, dark place where they'll remain viable for several years. Number 5 is rechargeable batteries and portable power stations. Our dependence on electricity is so complete that most of us can barely function when the power goes out for a few hours. Smart Americans are addressing this vulnerability without spending $50,000 on whole home generators. They're investing in portable power stations, which are basically large rechargeable batteries with multiple outlets and USB ports. These have come way down in price and can keep essential devices running during outages. Your phone, a small fridge, a CPAP machine, lights, even a laptop for work. Pair these with a solar panel setup, and you've got a renewable charging solution. Beyond the power station, they're also stockpiling rechargeable AA, C, and D batteries, along with quality chargers. Think about all the devices in your home that use disposable batteries. Flashlights, radios, kids' toys, remote controls. Switching to rechargeables saves money, and ensures you're not left in the dark scrounging for batteries during an emergency. The key is to regularly rotate and maintain these power solutions so they're ready when you need them, not dead and useless at the bottom of a drawer. Item 6 is cash in small denominations. This is old-school preparedness that still absolutely matters. In our increasingly digital payment world, we forget that credit card systems, banking apps, and ATMs all require functioning internet and power to work. During regional emergencies, these systems often go down, and suddenly that stash of physical cash becomes incredibly valuable. But here's what most people get wrong. They think about storing $100 bills. The smart move is keeping a supply of 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s. Why? Because in a cash-only situation after a disaster, nobody can make change. If you need to buy $15 worth of supplies and you only have hundreds, you're either not getting your purchase or you're massively overpaying. Aim for at least a few $100s in small bills kept securely in your home, and consider keeping some in your car as well. This isn't money for regular spending. It's emergency money that stays untouched unless systems go down. And yes, and keep it truly secure and private. You'd be amazed how quickly cash can walk away even in your own household if people know it's there. Number 7 is fuel stabilizer and extra fuel storage. If you have vehicles, you understand how quickly things get complicated when you can't fill your gas tank. We've seen regional fuel shortages from pipeline shutdowns, natural disasters, and distribution problems. Smart Americans are keeping their vehicle tanks above half full as a general rule, and many are also storing extra fuel safely. This doesn't mean keeping 50 gas cans in your garage creating a fire hazard. It means understanding proper fuel storage. Use approved containers, store them in a cool, well-ventilated area away from living spaces, and this is critical. Use fuel stabilizer. If gasoline degrades and becomes useless in just a few months without stabilizer, but with it, you can keep fuel viable for a year or more. Rotate your stored fuel by using it in your regular vehicles and refilling your storage containers with fresh gas. This same principle applies to propane if you use it for grills or heating, and to diesel if that's your vehicle fuel. Having the ability to move freely when others are stuck in gas lines or unable to travel at all is a significant advantage in emergencies. Item 8 is manual tools and non-electric alternatives. Take a moment and think about what happens in your daily life if the power goes out for a week. How do you cook? How do you open cans? How do you stay warm or cool? How do you get information? Prepared individuals are stocking manual alternatives to electric conveniences. Thus, a manual can opener sounds silly until your electric one is useless and you're staring at canned food you can't access. A camp stove with extra fuel canisters means you can cook and boil water for purification. Hand crank or solar-powered radios keep you informed when your phone is dead and the internet is down. Non-electric heaters designed for safe indoor use can be life-saving in winter power outages. Basic hand tools instead of only power tools mean you can make repairs when needed. The pattern here is redundancy. You don't abandon modern conveniences, but you have backup options that don't depend on the grid. These items are usually inexpensive and last forever, but they're worth their weight in gold when circumstances change suddenly. Number 9 is hygiene and sanitation supplies. This category gets overlooked constantly. But ask anyone who lived through extended pandemic lockdowns what disappeared from stores immediately. Toilet paper became a meme, but the lesson was real. Smart Americans are keeping substantial supplies of toilet paper, feminine hygiene products, soap, toothpaste, shampoo, and cleaning supplies. But they're also thinking beyond the basics. What happens to sanitation if water service is disrupted? They're considering portable camping toilets, heavy-duty trash bags, disinfectants, and even lime or specialized chemicals for waste management. This isn't glamorous, but it's absolutely essential. Poor sanitation leads directly to disease, which is often more dangerous than the original emergency. These supplies are also useful for economic preparedness. If your budget gets suddenly tight, having 6 months of hygiene supplies already stocked means that money can go to other necessities. Buy these items on sale, in bulk, and store them properly, and you've created a significant buffer against both supply disruptions and personal financial hardship. Item 10 is physical reference books and printed information. Everything is digital now. Need to know how to purify water, treat a wound, identify an edible plant, or fix a mechanical problem. Just search online, right? But what happens when the internet is unavailable for an extended period? Prepared Americans are rebuilding physical libraries of useful information. First aid manuals, edible plant guides for their region, basic home repair books, cookbooks focused on simple ingredients, and even entertainment like novels and games that don't require power. They're printing out important documents too. Medical records, insurance information, contact lists, local maps. Digital copies are great until your devices are dead or broken. Paper doesn't need charging, doesn't crash, and can't be hacked. A comprehensive first aid book alone could help you handle medical situations that would otherwise require professional help that might not be available. Knowledge is always valuable, but accessible knowledge when systems are down is priceless. Item 11 is barter items and trade goods. Here's something that separates basic preppers from truly strategic thinkers. They stock extras of useful items specifically for trading. The idea is simple. You might have everything your household needs, but having trade goods gives you flexibility to acquire things you didn't anticipate needing or to help others while getting something in return. What makes good barter items? Things that are useful, have long shelf life, and are likely to be in short supply. Alcohol in small bottles, cigarettes if you can stomach supporting the trade, coffee, chocolate, batteries, lighters, basic medications, ammunition if you're in that world, soap, and even spices. These are relatively inexpensive to stockpile now, but could become extremely valuable in disrupted economies. The psychology here matters too. Being able to help a neighbor while making a fair trade builds community resilience and relationships that might prove more valuable than any physical item. You're not price gouging during a crisis. You're creating mutual benefit and goodwill. And finally, number 12 is skills and training. This is the only item on our list that isn't a physical object, but it might be the most important thing smart Americans are hoarding right now. They're investing in themselves. They're taking first aid and CPR certification courses. They're learning food preservation techniques like canning, dehydrating, and fermenting. They're developing basic mechanical skills, learning to garden, studying their local ecosystem, practicing fire starting and outdoor skills, even learning ham radio operation for communication when normal systems fail. Skills can't be taken from you. They don't require storage space, and they often appreciate rather than depreciate with time. When a person with a well-stocked pantry but no skills is in a weaker position than someone with moderate supplies and broad practical knowledge. Skills also have barter value. In difficult times, being the person who can fix things, treat injuries, preserve food, or purify water makes you a valuable community member. Start with skills that match likely scenarios in your area and build from there. Take a class, watch instructional videos while the internet works, and then practice hands-on until you're truly competent. So there you have it. 12 categories of items and capabilities that smart, everyday Americans are quietly building right now in 2026. Notice that none of this requires panic, huge expense, or radical lifestyle changes. It's about gradual, steady preparation that builds resilience against multiple scenarios, from personal job loss to regional natural disasters to broader economic instability. Start with the category that makes most sense for your situation and build from there. And remember, the goal isn't to have everything perfectly stocked tomorrow. The goal is to be significantly better prepared a month from now than you are today, and even better prepared 3 months after that. If this video gave you some useful ideas, do me a favor and like it so more people can see this information. Share it with friends and family who might benefit. And subscribe to this channel because we'll continue covering practical topics that help you build real security in an uncertain world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Before we wrap up, I want to address something that might be on your mind right now. You might be thinking, okay, this all makes sense, but where do I actually start? The answer is simpler than you think, and it doesn't require you to become a full-time prepper or dedicate your entire paycheck to this. The beauty of what we've been discussing is that most of these items integrate naturally into your regular purchasing patterns. When you're at the grocery store anyway, buy an extra can of tuna or chicken. When you're filling up your gas tank, think about fuel stabilizer. When you are doing your regular shopping for household items, grab an extra pack of batteries or some cash back from your debit card transaction. These aren't separate activities that require special trips or online orders. They're just slightly smarter versions of what you're already doing. And one practical approach that works really well is the rule of 3. For essential items that you use regularly, maintain 3 of them at any given time. One that you're currently using, one that's in reserve, and one that you're building toward replacing. This creates a natural rotation where nothing expires before you use it, and you're always maintaining a buffer without overthinking the process. For something like toothpaste, you'd buy a new one when you open your reserve, ensuring you always have backup. For medications, this principle applies perfectly with that 30 to 90-day conversation with your doctor we talked about. The rule of 3 keeps everything manageable and realistic. Let's also talk about storage because this is where a lot of people get intimidated. But you don't need a fancy underground bunker or a separate building. Most prepared Americans are using space they already have. A closet shelf can hold a surprising amount of canned food. Underbed storage containers work great for batteries, first aid supplies, and important documents. A corner of the basement or garage can accommodate water filters and fuel containers. Even a dedicated cabinet in your kitchen can organize your medicine, seeds, and hygiene supplies. The key is organizing what you have in a logical way so you know what you're storing and where to find it when you need it. Create a simple inventory list, even just in a notebook, that tracks what you have and when things expire. This takes maybe 30 minutes to set up and saves you from discovering expired items years later. Now, I want to touch on something equally important, and this is the psychological aspect of preparedness. There's a significant mental health benefit to being prepared that often goes unmentioned. Anxiety about an uncertain future is real, and it affects a lot of people whether they talk about it openly or not. When you take concrete steps to build resilience, when you know you have 3 months of medications, when you've got water filters installed and a food supply that could sustain your family for several weeks, something shifts internally. That gnawing worry doesn't disappear completely, but it becomes manageable. You've moved from feeling helpless to feeling proactive. You've shifted from dwelling on what might go wrong to taking reasonable steps to prepare for it. This isn't anxiety amplification. This is anxiety management through practical action. It's the psychological equivalent of having insurance. You hope you never need it, but knowing it's there is profoundly reassuring. Another point worth emphasizing is that preparedness actually strengthens community rather than isolating you from it. When you're prepared and stable, you're actually in a better position to help others. You can loan supplies to a neighbor in need. You can share knowledge and skills. You can be a steady, reliable presence when others are panicking. The most resilient communities aren't made up of individuals who prepared alone and hoarded everything. They're made up of people who prepared thoughtfully and maintained relationships and goodwill with those around them. So as you're building these supplies and skills, think about your neighbors, your friends, your faith community, or whatever groups you're connected to. Having conversations about preparedness casually can actually help others without making it weird or preachy. Share what you've learned. Recommend resources. Maybe do a skill-sharing workshop where you teach food preservation to interested neighbors in exchange for learning something they know. This approach builds mutual resilience and makes your entire community stronger. Let's also acknowledge that different people's preparedness looks different based on their circumstances. Someone living in an apartment in a city has different constraints and priorities than someone with a house and yard. A person with chronic health conditions that require specific medications has different preparation needs than someone in perfect health. When a single parent working 2 jobs has less time and money to allocate than someone with more resources, a family with young children has different concerns than a retired couple. The 12 categories we discussed are a framework, not a prescription. You adapt them to your reality. Maybe you can't garden, but you can learn to sprout beans on your kitchen counter in a jar. Maybe you don't have space for a large water storage system, but you can have a quality portable filter for your specific apartment. Maybe instead of storing fuel, you focus on keeping your vehicle full and having emergency cash for ride shares or car services. The principle remains the same even as the implementation varies. Something else to consider as you move forward is the timing aspect. There's actually a strategic way to approach this that distributes cost and effort. Month 1, you might focus on getting prescription medications sorted and building your cash reserve. These are foundational and don't require much space. Month 2, you invest in water filtration and grab some high-quality filters. Month 3, you begin building your shelf-stable protein supply. Month 4, you get your seeds and maybe do some research on gardening or growing food in small spaces. You can literally spend just 1 month focused on each major category, take action that month, then move to the next one. By month 12, you've made significant progress across all 12 categories without overwhelming yourself. And that's just a suggestion. You might move faster or slower depending on your situation. Well, the point is, there's no urgency to do everything at once. Steady, consistent progress over time is actually more sustainable and more likely to stick than trying to panic. Prepare everything in a couple of weeks. As we look toward the rest of 2026 and beyond, the world will undoubtedly continue surprising us. There will be challenges we can't predict and situations we never anticipated. That's just the nature of an increasingly complex, interconnected world. But there will also be opportunities for those who have thought ahead and taken reasonable precautions. Markets might shift, supply chains might have hiccups, emergencies might strike locally or regionally, and having prepared thoughtfully means you'll navigate those situations from a position of strength rather than desperation. But you'll sleep better knowing you've taken reasonable steps. Your family will feel the security of having what they need. You'll be able to help others instead of joining the panic. These aren't guarantees of perfect outcomes, but they're the difference between stumbling through difficulty and weathering it with some degree of grace. I also want to say this directly. If you're watching this and feeling a little overwhelmed, or like you're too late to start, or like you don't know where to begin, I want you to know that's completely normal and more common than you might think. Everyone who's ever become prepared started exactly where you are right now, watching someone talk about this stuff and wondering if they could actually do it. The answer is yes, you can. You don't need special knowledge or significant wealth, but you just need to decide that being a little more prepared is worth the small effort required. Start this week. Pick one category from our list. Just one. Do something concrete in that category. Buy those prescription medications. Get that water filter. Pick up some canned chicken. Order those seeds. Invest in that power station. Withdraw that cash. Grab that fuel stabilizer. Buy those tools. Stock up on toilet paper. Grab those reference books. Pick up some barter items. Or sign up for that first aid class. Do one thing. Then next week, pick another category and do one thing there. Before you know it, you'll have built substantial resilience without it ever feeling like too much. Finally, I want to thank you for spending this time with me today. The fact that you're here, that you're thinking about these topics, that you're considering practical preparedness, tells me you're someone who takes responsibility for your own security and your family's well-being. That's admirable, and it's increasingly rare in a world where many people prefer to assume that someone else will handle things if something goes wrong. You're not making that assumption. You're taking ownership. That mindset alone puts you ahead of most people. So as you move forward with whatever preparedness journey you decide to take, know that you're making good decisions. You're not being paranoid. You're not being extreme. You're just being reasonably cautious in an uncertain world. That's wisdom. That's responsibility. That's something to feel good about.